What's happening, guys? Oxford King here. Diablo IV has changed a lot since its initial launch, and in this video, I wanted to share with you 13 reasons you should play D4 for both new players and for those that quit the game and wanted to see what D4 has been up to. Let's get started. First up, we have the new Spiritborn class, which was introduced in the latest Vessel of Hatred expansion that I have been playing a lot of and having a ton of fun with. This new class is new to the Diablo franchise, and it really shines with how fast and mobile this playstyle can be. Now, the Spiritborn makes use of 4 different spirit animals, such as the Jaguar for swift attack style, Gorilla for high defense and thorns, Eagle for crit and agile gameplay, and the Centipede for the poison builds. Now, you can even mix match the different spirit animals, allowing up to 2 different animals at the same time. Now, Spiritborn feels like 4 classes in one. I would highly recommend checking out this new class next time that you boot up Diablo IV. In addition to this, all of the other classes also received new skills as well. Another reason to log in and check out Diablo IV. Moving over to number 2, we have the new improved crafting system called Masterworking and Tempering. Now, this crafting update that I'm mentioning here was introduced several seasons ago, but for those that are new to the game or you quit like last year and you're trying to find out what's going on with D4, this crafting system has been introduced over the seasons and is an amazing addition to the crafting system. Now, this new crafting system allows for more customization to all of your gear compared to what we had at launch. The tempering system allows us to add up to 2 affixes on each of the gear, further increasing its scaling and potency for several different categories for either damage, defense, utility, and a lot more. Now, recently they introduced an item allowing us to re-roll our tempers in case RNG wasn't on our side, and we wish we had a few more attempts to get what we need. In addition to this, we have the Masterworking crafting system, where you will take the required materials needed to essentially just level up your gear, or each piece of gear that is, each time increasing its stats by 5%. Now, every 4th upgrade, it'll randomly select one of the affixes on your piece of gear and upgrade that stat by 25%. Now, you can re-roll these upgrades at a very hefty cost of gold and materials in case you failed that craft and you want to get what you need. Next up, we have the new difficulty settings. Now, no longer do we have the world tiers 1 through 4. We now have something similar to Diablo 3, where we have 8 difficulties. We have normal, hard, expert, penitent, and then we have torment 1, 2, 3, and 4. When you create a new character, you'll have access to normal mode through penitent mode right out of the gate. You will then be required to fulfill certain tasks in order to reach the torment levels. Now, the great thing about these new difficulties is that your keys, such as Nightmare Dungeon keys, you have your Infernal Horde keys, all this stuff, it's tied to the difficulty that you have selected. Gone are the days of having a ton of keys for different tiers. Remember those days in the early days of D4? You had all these keys and all these tiers. It's linked to the difficulty now. So, and like I mentioned before, this goes for the Infernal Horde keys as well. Now, pretty much everything is tied to the difficulty that you're in, that you selected, including the in-game torment bosses, the ladder bosses. So this is a huge quality of life change here. And as expected, the higher difficulty you go, the more drops, the more loot you get, the more XP and gold. Next, we have increased level cap for both your character level and your Paragon level. So those that left the game or are new to the game, or maybe you just quit all around, you have no idea what's going on in Diablo IV. Yes, the level cap has increased and the Paragon system has changed quite a bit. I want to go over that. Now, the new level cap went from 50 to level 60, which means more skills to spend on the base skill tree. Now, the new Paragon level system has been increased from level 100 to level 300. Yes, you heard that right, 300. And is now linked to all of your characters you create in that season. So as an example, you can have one character at level 60 and Paragon level 246, but then when you create another brand new character in that same season, you still need to level up your character from 1 to 60, but the Paragon level stays there. The Paragon level is shared. It stays 246 or whatever your Paragon level is on the other character. So all across the board, when you create more characters, no longer do you have to worry about the Paragon level. So this saves so much time and also encourages multiple characters to be created in a season. Now, here's the thing. You will still need to find and level up your glyphs for each character that you create. So that's a huge bonus, though, as far as the Paragon goes. But the glyphs, you still need to locate them in the dungeons, and you still need to level up those glyphs. But it all in all, it keeps you in the game, keeps you logged in, and it's also very fun to keep going and build that character progression. Now, speaking of glyphs, they have now seen a light rework as well. Now, glyphs can be leveled up to level 100, and they have a larger radius after meeting certain level requirements. So they are now also leveled up. And this is the change right here. They're now leveled up in the pit and not in nightmare dungeons like they were in the past. Now, in addition to this new level scaling, you have a level up success rating, a fail and success rating. So this all depends on which pit tier you are on. So if you are on a lower pit tier, but you have a high level of glyphs, the success rate of that glyph leveling is no longer 100%. It'll actually lower down depending on what tier you're on, let's say 70 or 40%, right? Which encourages players to push the pit tiers even further for efficient glyph leveling. Now, each glyph will reach a new legendary status at level 45, and then that will also increase the radius size of that glyph at level 46. Glyphs are now more powerful ever than before, especially last year. So this is definitely worth checking out when you log into Diablo IV. The Torment ladder bosses such as Andario, Durio, Grigwar, Varshan, and Zir, all of these in-game bosses are now tied to the Torment level you are in, okay? So no longer do we need an extra summoning material. Remember those stones we had to have to like increase the level of the bosses? You don't need that anymore. You just summon the boss that you have the materials for, and they're tied to the difficulty that you're in. Like let's say you're in Torment 1, Torment 2, Torment 4. The boss difficulty is linked to that, which is why I love the new Torment system. Now, they come as Torment versions of the tier you're in, like I mentioned. So once you reach Torment 4, you will now take on the T4 versions of those bosses. Now, this includes the Lilith boss fight as well. Now, I personally love this, as it feels like each Torment level we have a challenge waiting for us to test out our character, where we're at, and then what we need to work on before moving up a tier. So it feels like we're actually progressing towards something compared to how it was at launch with the world tiers and all the different materials that you needed. It just wasn't right. This feels much, much better. In Diablo IV, today, we have a lot more mounts to choose from compared to launch, especially. Not only do we have horses with a ton of new cosmetics, a lot of cosmetics now compared to what we had at launch, but we also have cat mounts as well. Now here on screen, here are a few examples of the many new mounts in Diablo IV today. Next up, we have Party Finder. Yes, Party Finder has been introduced to the game where we can now customize our searches for online players for either the base game or the expansion. This is great for blasting through nightmare dungeons, world bosses, infernal hordes, and the new Undercity Dungeons, which I'll go over later, and the new online cooperative raid, Dark Citadel, and a lot more. So I'm so happy to see there's a Party Finder in Diablo IV. Mercenaries are in Diablo IV. In case you didn't know, or you left the game, didn't come back, had no interest in playing Diablo IV, yes, we now have Mercenaries. Now, there is a new dedicated hub area on the map that you can locate. You can also open up the menu and teleport to the hub from your menu as well, where the mercenaries are located at, along with all of the town vendors in the hub as well. Now, we have up to 4 mercenaries right now to choose from, and from there, we can choose 2 to join us in battle. Now, just take note, though, that your main mercenary that you hire will actually go away when and if you invite an actual online player. One mercenary is for hire, where they will be alongside you when you do play solo, and then another one is called in through reinforcement, which has a cooldown, but depending on what action you use, and you'll select them to perform. So they'll come in randomly depending on which action you choose. That's the reinforcement piece. Now, each of these mercenaries have their own dedicated skill tree. The one for hire, that is, has their own skill tree offering you a lot of utility for you and your player character. In addition to this, however, there is a currency you will collect based on how much rapport that you build with each of the mercenaries. You can spend that currency with an NPC that's in the center of that hideout, and this NPC offers you gear and caches for crafting materials, aspects, you name it. It's all right there in the middle. Now, this is a great way to get what you need for materials and aspects in case you're lacking that stuff while you're playing the game organically. Now, she will even offer random ancestral gear, so be sure to stop by this shop often while you level up your rapport with these mercenaries. Runewords are now in Diablo IV. Yes, a fan favorite from Diablo II. Now, the system in D2, I'm going to be honest with you, is still better than the D4 version. But what we have in D4 is definitely a great start to even more customization. There are a plethora of runes to choose from, ranging from the magic, rare, and legendary versions of these runes. You will pair up 2 runes that will give you the perk listed on the bottom part of that rune, okay? The top rune, however, informs us of the prerequisites required to activate the bottom rune called an offering, or however much offering you get, it'll trigger that bottom rune. You get what I'm saying? So you can only have 2 sets of rune words on your character. These runes will be inserted just like gems are on the left side of your gear. And now you can only have up to 2 pieces of gear max. You can only have 2 sets of rune words is what I'm trying to say. So as an example here, we can use the Druid's Bulwark buff on a non-Druid class and gain that benefit. Personally, I can't wait to see more from this system going forward in Diablo 4. In Season 6, we have a new boss type roaming sanctuary called Realmwalker. I consider this like a walking version of a world boss, if you want to call it that. Once you open up your map, you will see a timer off to the left called Realmwalker with a timer along with an associated icon. Now, once you arrive to the location, you will wait for the boss to sort of like wake up, if you will. And then off you go. All these enemies start spawning. You start killing all these mobs, and the mob starts to wake up and starts walking. Now, you will follow this boss, killing all the mobs along the way until the Realmwalker completely stops. And then when you take it down, you're going to start fighting that boss. You'll take it down, right? And then it's going to open up a red portal, the portal that's on top of its head, taking you into an inception of dungeons. In here, we can choose up to 4 options of bonus materials before entering the next wave of dungeons. So there's options like extra gold, materials, gear. So once you do that, you'll be able to add more bonuses and rewards to what you're about to do, right? So once you're in here, you will notice more random red portals where you can go into, you can enter them, taking you to like basically like a little single room where there's either mobs to fight, to take loot, or sometimes there's even just like a room full of chests that you open. And even in some cases, there's treasure goblins too. So you can keep pushing through until you reach the very end of this Realmwalker dungeon, where you'll take on a wave of mobs at the very end, which then rewards you with 2 treasure boxes with a whole bunch of loot. The Realmwalker, by the way, is up at all times. As of Season 6, that is, where we're not waiting around for like, a long cooldown, waiting between periods of spawn times. It's always ready to go. So I really hope they keep this feature permanently in the game after Season 6 is over. I think it's worth checking out in Diablo 4. I love it. The new Undercity Dungeons have been introduced to Diablo 4 with the expansion, which is a new 3-floor plus a 4th boss floor dungeon, which can be accessed in the new town of the expansion. The Undercity Dungeons are accessed by using a brazier in town, where you will then open up a menu further to enhance your rewards by adding something called a tribute and also a bargain item. Now, the tributes are items stored in your inventory under the keys tab, and they come in different varieties such as magic, rare, legendary, and unique. They also have 2 versions called United and Resolute, where United is meant for basically all party members in your party get the benefit of that tribute that you use in the brazier. But the Resolute version is meant for just the person that used that tribute in the brazier. So I typically use Resolutes whenever I'm soloing. However, you can use the United ones by yourself as well. It just means that it can be used for all party members. Does that make sense? Now, the bargains, on the other hand, will further customize your rewards based on the tribute that you used. It will then pull up an additional menu, allowing you to select even more rewards just before entering the Undercity Dungeon portal. Now, the Undercity Dungeon is a timed instance with 3 floors plus a 4th floor, which is basically the boss floor. You will have enemies to kill. They will have icons above their head or even on the minimap. You will have enemies to kill, which add more time to the clock. Now, in addition to this, there will also be these beacons that you'll light up. You'll basically walk up to them and trigger them, and enemies will spawn. You'll kill those enemies, and then it'll fill up an attunement gauge. That gauge is located to the far right of your screen. You'll see Roman numeral numbers of 1 through 4. You're going to want to fill up that gauge. Each floor has these objectives of the attunement gauge, these beacons, and then you want to increase the time for each floor. So by the time you reach the boss floor, you want to have that attunement gauge completely maxed out. So you will want this gauge maxed out, like I mentioned, to increase the rewards is what I was trying to say. Now, I personally love this addition to D4. I think it's a lot of fun, as I enjoy the timed aspect and the challenge of completing this as quickly as possible. So I love this feature. Next up, we have the new party raid dungeon called the Dark Citadel, which has 3 wings to complete each week for a weekly cash reward called the Dark Citadel Challengers Cash. You can also do this challenge with a new character you create in that same week, in the same season, that is. So if you have one character, you can do the challenge, create another character, and you'll have that challenge as well. Now, just take note, this is party-only content, which requires a minimum of 2 party members. So just be aware of that. Now, as of this video, there are only 3 instances, or wings they call it, where you complete certain tasks together, including the bosses, together with the party, that is, including the bosses even have mechanics too that require party play or collaboration, right? Or cooperation, which are new. And these bosses are new and unique to Diablo IV. Now, there is a central hub located for the Dark Citadel. It's located on the map. Okay, and there's actually a waypoint here. There's a difficulty statue there. There's vendors and more. There's even a currency-specific NPC that you'll obtain doing these tasks, right? You'll get this currency. There's an NPC that you'll see in the top left corner of that area that uses only that currency. And so you'll receive this optional in-game content with items, consumables, and there's even some cosmetics with that NPC. I'm going to be honest with you. This was a blast to play. I love the raid in the Dark Citadel. I just hope that they introduce more of these instances or these wings in the future to kind of rotate these 3 out. What reasons do you have for playing or returning to Diablo 4? Thanks for watching.